Looking back at Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny in isolation, apart from the fact that it was a box office failure and the fact that it was so mismanaged, not just by Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, and yes, even James Mangold and Steven Spielberg to a degree, but looking at the main star, or at least is considered the main star, Phoebe Waller-Bridge in Indiana Jones 5 made matters all the more worse. Now, we know that Waller-Bridge tends to heavily defend this movie and claims that she is the main star, that she is the main character that really drives the whole story, and how Indiana Jones is basically second and following her every move. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that Disney fired and removed Phoebe Waller-Bridge from 7 Disney-oriented projects, a lot of which had to do with the Indy 5 sequel, and a lot of which also had to do with just Disney movies in general, one of which was going to be a movie about witches, one of which was going to be about 1900s London, and another of which was going to be a mysterious project that was going to be announced at D23. Now, that's still slated to be announced, but it's not going to feature Phoebe Waller-Bridge anymore. But we'll have more to talk about that in the next week or so. We're gathering more on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what's interesting is exactly what Phoebe had to say in response to this falling out, if you will, if you want to call that, between herself and Disney and her views on toxic fandoms. I mean, this is her favorite word, toxic, right? So let's jump right into this. Now, on top of this, with actress Phoebe Waller-Bridge still defending Indy 5 to this day, she recently went on to rant about both Star Wars fans, Indiana Jones fans, and even Marvel, as well as, of course, Disney firing her from several projects. Well, as a creator, she says, and as an actress, you get to understand both angles of the creative process on these films and or shows, and I think the problem is, in this day and age, is that we deal with toxic fandoms and toxic fans, mostly related to Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and let's not forget about Marvel lately. They tend to hold the most argumentative conversations among the fans I have ever seen in my life. Working with Disney for both Solo, she's talking about the Han Solo movie, and Indiana Jones was a blast, and I had the time of my life. But sometimes plans change, and the people way up in charge suddenly don't want you involved in certain projects anymore. And that's something that I ran into at Disney. I was having multiple conversations for multiple projects, and those, well, just fell apart abruptly. And I think at least a lot of it has to do with these overly demanding fans that tend to make said projects underperform at the box office, putting full blame on the creatives, like the actors and the actresses. Not that I'm not really working well with Disney at the moment anymore, at least for the moment, since we had some ongoing debates and creative differences on those projects where they fell apart and they needed new talent and wanted to pursue different creatives to lead those projects and take in said roles that I can't discuss. I think it's a blessing after thinking about it, because now I have more time to focus on my creative talent, on Tomb Raider as a series that I'm chipping away at right now, and what myself and Barbara, she's talking about Barbara from the James Bond franchise, are doing with the next Bond film, since she just loved my contributions to No Time to Die. Now guys, let me just pause here quick. I don't know if you knew this, but she played a very big role in the latest James Bond movie. She is the one that decided that the female character would get that 007 moniker in the very beginning of the film, you know, calling herself 007. That was a Phoebe Waller-Bridge idea. Phoebe also played a very big role in some of the dialogue between Bond and the villains and stuff like that, and the fates of certain characters. So a lot of that had to do with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Though she did not write a pencil on paper or type anything up for the script, she contributed to the story much like how she did with Indiana Jones 5. Same exact thing with James Mangold, accepting a lot of these ideas that he shouldn't have accepted that really, you know, led to a complete sabotage of Indy 5. I mean, let's face it, it's true. So the fact that she is really making it out like it's a blessing in disguise that she had a falling out with Disney, if you want to call it that. Like I said, creative differences that led to her getting removed and fired from several projects that she was initially attached to, and how this is giving her now more time to work on Tomb Raider and to work on the next Bond. And she, by the way, just to warn you all, is actually very well in charge and in the decision-making process of who is going to get cast as the next James Bond. Alright, so that's, I think, something all the more to worry about, because we know that Phoebe before in the past said that she would love to have a softer James Bond, one that is more sentimental, one that is more sensitive, so to speak, that has different emotions that we have never seen on film before, to an extent or to a heightened level. That's what she wants to explore and see on the big screen. I think that's a tragedy. I think that Bond needs to be a very thick-skinned character that just does his mission and moves on to the next. That's what it has to be about. So anyway, not to get too off track here, moving on forward, she goes on to state and elaborate the following. She was quite impressed, she's talking about Barbara, and so am I, pleased and grateful to be attached to these two franchises that hold so much potential. Shifting away from Marvel, Star Wars, and just anything Disney for now, I think may come to my benefit in the end. I'm going to be giving everyone some exciting updates of what I'm doing with Amazon for Tomb Raider before the new year, so I ask all to remain patient. Now, I would like to hear if you guys agree or disagree with me on this, but I think that Tomb Raider on Amazon is going to be a bigger flop than what happened with Lord of the Rings. We all know what happened with Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, that was a tragedy for, of course, everything Amazon, and just how fans viewed the Amazon Prime streaming service, which, by the way, is still kind of like lower level, even at this day and age. Like, what she talks about here is the fact that she's getting now a lot more time to focus on Tomb Raider. So now she's going to be going all in on this show. And she even made comments before in the past, by the way, about Lara Croft and how she wants to reinvent the character. I would not be surprised, let me just say this here, I would not be surprised, given that she's the creator, she's going to be the writer, the director, the producer of this thing, if she self-inserts herself as Lara Croft. And if she doesn't, there's no doubt about it that she's going to swap her, you know, with a totally different version of Lara Croft that just makes absolutely no sense, much like with what's happening with Snow White 2024 with Rachel Zegler. You know, I think that that's going to be the new thing for Tomb Raider. I have no doubt in my mind that that's what Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to pursue. So, I mean, look, Phoebe has been, you know, out of the spotlight for the past number of weeks. We haven't been hearing much from her lately. She hasn't been blasting fans as hard, I guess. I think that she's beginning to accept how big of a failure Indy 5 really has become, and she's moving on. And it's just funny, it goes to show you that they're gonna say whatever they have to say when the movie's out. You know, this is a person that said that this movie was gonna make $1 billion at the box office worldwide, and how the naysayers aren't gonna make a difference, and it ended up only making like 360 plus million, I believe, worldwide. Pretty bad. But anyway, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No hiding from night to moon.